Apply the handbrake. Chalk the back wheels to prevent the car from rolling. Remove the lug bolt covers. Break the lug bolts free before lifting the wheel off the ground. Use a breaker bar with a 17mm socket. Push the jack underneath the vehicle. Check your owner's manual to see where to place the jack. Lifting the car from an improper point can cause damage. Raise the front of the car with the hydraulic jack. Place jack stands underneath your vehicle for support. Check your owner's manual to see where to place the jack stands under the chassis of the car. Slowly lower the hydraulic jack so the car rests on the jack stands. Remove the lug bolts with a 17mm socket. You can now remove the wheel from the rotor. Slide the wheel under the chassis for extra safety. Turn the steering wheel to face the caliper out of the wheel well. Now you may loosen the rotor set screw with a T30 Torx screwdriver. Use a flathead screwdriver to remove the brake caliper retaining spring. Remove these two cables from their metal clips. You will need a flathead screwdriver to remove the metal piece that holds the hydraulic line in place. Remove the dust caps to expose the 7mm Allen heads of the slide pins. You may need to use a flathead screwdriver. Remove the caliper slide pins using a ratchet wrench with a 7mm hex key. Attach a bungee cord to the vehicle's suspension or body and pull the caliper top free. Hang up the caliper with the bungee cord to avoid stressing the brake line. Move the caliper behind the hub. Remove the outer and inner brake pads. Remove the two bolts from the bracket using a ratchet wrench with a 21mm socket. You may need to loosen these bolts farther by hand. Remove the caliper bracket. Remove the screw that secures the rotor to the hub with a T30 Torx screwdriver. Then remove the rotor. Use the wire brush to remove rust and buildup. Please wear eye protection and a face mask when brushing or cleaning parts. You may want to spray the hub with brake cleaner after wire brushing it. Move the caliper in front of the hub. Set up your bottle. Remove the bleeder screw cover. Set up your bleeder hose. Connect the hose to the bleed valve. Loosen, but do not completely remove, the bleeder screw with an 11mm wrench. Use a 100mm C-clamp or a caliper piston tool to retract the caliper piston as far as possible. Tighten the bleeder valve with an 11mm wrench. Move the caliper behind the hub. Remove any old buildup on the rotor set screw. It is good practice to compare your old and new brake rotor to make sure they are the same size and diameter. Install the rotor onto the hub. Use a lug bolt to hold the rotor in place. Reinstall the screw that secures the rotor to the hub. Tighten this screw to 8 Nm. Remove the lug bolt from the rotor. Use a wire brush to clean the brake caliper bracket from rust and buildup. Apply high-temperature brake grease to the bracket where it will make contact with the brake pads. Remove any old buildup on the bracket bolts with a wire brush. Reinstall the brake caliper bracket with its two 21mm bolts. Tighten the bolts to 200 Nm using a torque wrench. Cut the sensor from the brake pad as it is not needed for this particular vehicle. Using the small packet that's included in your kit, apply high-temperature brake grease to the points on the pads where they will contact the caliper. Avoid getting the grease on the friction surface or the rotor surface. It's important to be careful not to apply too much, as this could cause other problems such as contaminating the friction surface and inhibiting smooth sliding and movement. Install the new outer pad onto the bracket. Move the bottle out of your way and reposition the caliper towards the bracket. Install the new inner pad into the caliper. Detach the caliper from the bungee cord. Reassemble the caliper over the rotor. Remove the cable or wire that you used to hang the caliper on. Wipe down the caliper slide pins. Grease the slides. Reinstall the slides with a 7mm hex key and a ratchet wrench. Using a torque wrench, tighten the slides to 30 Nm. Snap the dust boot caps back into place. Install the brake caliper retaining spring. You may need a flathead screwdriver. Loosen the bleeder valve. Press the brakes pedal multiple times until the fluid flows out of the bleeder valve smoothly without any air bubbles. Tighten the bleeder valve to 10 Nm. Remove your bleeder hose and bottle. Remove the hose from the bleeder valve. Clean up excess fluid. Reinstall the bleeder screw cover. Place the cables back in their metal clips. Don't forget to reinstall the metal piece that holds the hydraulic line in place. Attach the second cable. Turn the steering wheel back to its original position. Remove the wheel from underneath your vehicle. Reinstall the wheel over the hub and align the mounting holes. Insert the lug bolts and lightly tighten them. Tighten the bolts in a star pattern with a 17mm socket and a breaker bar. Raise the jack so you can remove the jack stands. Slowly lower the jack. Using a torque wrench with a 17mm socket, tighten the bolts to 140 Nm in a star pattern. Replace the lug bolt covers. Without starting the engine, press the brake pedal several times until you feel significant resistance. Check the brake fluid level and refill if necessary. Remove the wheel chock. Disengage the handbrake.